Earl, a 91-year-old man, was enjoying a quiet day outside his home when suddenly 3 bikers started bothering him. They thought Earl, being old, would just ignore them, but they didn't know Earl had a trick up his sleeve. The moment Earl took his stand, the bikers' smiles vanished, replaced by sheer surprise. When the bikers first saw the old man walking in the distance, they figured that they had an easy target to have some fun with. There was no way that this pensioner would be able to defend himself against the 3 of them, and they were ready to take full advantage of that. They revved their engines and quickly pulled up to Earl. They started circling the startled old man, and one of the bikers even gave him a push in the back, which made Earl fall down to his knees, much to the delight of the other bikers who were laughing their asses off. But what they did not like was that the old man did not seem all that frightened of them. They would relish it when people were fearful of them, and it was seemingly not happening. This lack of fear started to annoy the bikers. How did this weak old man seem so confident in the face of the imminent danger they were posing? They almost felt offended by the man's attitude, and so the bikers were ready to turn it up a notch. They stopped their bikes and got off, getting right in Earl's face. All while the old man was still on the ground, having difficulty getting to his feet. And just as he was about to succeed, one of the bikers kicked his legs out from under him, making him fall back to the stone floor. He just about managed to catch himself before slamming with his head into the ground. His phone also fell out of his pocket, and of the other bikers quickly stomped on it, breaking the equipment into pieces. And still, Earl did not seem afraid. The bikers had no intention of letting up their efforts to intimidate the old man, but suddenly they had no other choice. In the distance, they saw 2 police officers approaching on bicycles. They just happened to be passing by and saw the worrying scene, quickly jumping into action. The bikers reacted fast and got back on their bikes. They also flipped up their number plates so that they could not be traced back. They sped off and were of course much faster than the cops on bicycles, who did not even try to chase them. Their focus was on helping the old man, who was still lying on the ground. The police feared the worst, and at least figured that the man was injured, but before they got to him. Earl was already getting back on his feet, and he was even smiling while getting up. The police officers got by his side and offered to help him, but Earl wanted to get up by himself and declined the helping hands, much to the surprise of the officers. The old man did not seem hurt, except for a couple of scratches on his hand from stopping his own fall. The officers wanted to take a statement from Earl, but he did not seem to be interested. The normal protocol was to take Earl to the station and have him try to remember as much of his assailants as possible. And the officers wanted this even more than normal, as this had not been the first instance of bikers harassing people in the city. It had recently become a real problem, and the police had trouble actually making arrests. In these cases, Earl was willing to give a quick statement if he had to, but he was not willing to go to the station with the officer. And Earl shocked them even more when he told them that he did not even want to press charges. The officers did not understand this at all. He had just been the target of a harassment that would most likely have gotten far worse if they did not intervene, and now the old man wanted to act like nothing happened. The police tried to press him for a little longer, but it quickly became clear that this was no use. The old man's mind was made up. He did not want to help them in any way with finding the bikers, and he also did not want to give an explanation for it. The officers could only speculate that he was maybe afraid of potential retaliation from the bikers. But Earl had a very different reason for his silence. Concealed behind a nearby tree, a biker peered out, his curiosity piqued. Earl stood before the officers, his posture exuding a quiet resolve. The biker's brow furrowed in bewilderment. Why was this elderly man refusing to assist the authorities? Earl's demeanor was an intricate puzzle, his silence a profound enigma. The biker's interest deepened, his gaze fixated on the unfolding scene, searching for clues. The biker leaned closer from his shadowy vantage point, his thoughts racing. What was behind Earl's stoicism? Fear, pride, or a hidden agenda? Earl's calm defiance in the face of authority was disconcerting. The biker expected fear or submission, but Earl's unwavering stance only fueled more questions. The scene was a stark contrast to the biker's expectations of how one should react to intimidation. Earl's composure, unfazed by the officer's persistent questioning, intrigued the biker further. He watched intently as Earl dismissed each inquiry with brief, nonchalant responses. The biker's fascination with this unusual elderly man grew with every indifferent gesture and word. Earl was an enigma, a complex riddle wrapped in the mystery of his unyielding silence. The biker's mind was a whirlwind of theories and speculations. Perhaps Earl harbored dark secrets, or maybe he was simply a fearless, unyielding old man. Could there be unknown connections or past dealings unknown to the bikers? The biker mulled over these possibilities, each one painting Earl in a vastly different light. The old man was a canvas smeared with secrets and unanswered questions. Earl's silence was more eloquent than words, deeply perplexing the hidden biker. His steadfast refusal to cooperate with the police spoke volumes. What did the old man have to gain from this silence? Or, more intriguingly, what did he have to lose? This mystery only deepened the shadows that cloaked Earl, transforming him into a figure of increasing fascination and enigma. The observing biker hurried back to his comrades, his mind buzzing with details. Gathering in a busy parking lot, he recounted every moment of Earl's interaction with the police. His voice was tinged with confusion and awe. He didn't flinch, not even once, he explained, his words painting a picture of Earl's unnerving calm. The bikers listened, their interest piqued by this unexpected twist in their otherwise mundane day. Confused about what their comrade just said, the bikers leaned in, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. An old man, unafraid of the cops or us? One biker questioned, disbelief etching his rugged features. They debated Earl's unusual behavior, each theory more speculative than the last. He's no ordinary pensioner, they concluded, their minds whirling with possibilities of who Earl really could be. The air in the hideout was thick with conspiracy as the bikers reached a unanimous decision. "We need to know more about this Earl," the leader declared, his voice firm with resolve. They agreed to delve deeper into Earl's life, convinced that he held secrets worth uncovering. The mystery of the stoic old man had become an irresistible challenge to their rebellious spirits. The bikers gathered around a crudely drawn map of the city, their fingers tracing routes and locations. "We'll tail him discreetly, learn his routines," one suggested, his eyes gleaming with cunning. They plotted their surveillance with care, each member assigned a specific role. The plan was to blend into the cityscape, unseen yet ever watchful, their focus singularly fixed on unraveling the mystery of Earl. Preparation was key, and the bikers spent the rest of the night fine-tuning their strategy. Motorcycles were readied, routes memorized, and alibis crafted. They were a mix of excitement and determination, eager to start their covert mission. As dawn broke, they set out with a singular goal: to tail Earl and peel back the layers of his enigmatic existence. The trap was set, and the game was on. The bikers, with a stealth that belied their rugged appearance, followed Earl at a safe distance. Their surprise was palpable when Earl's path led them to a lush, affluent neighborhood. The houses here were grand, each lawn meticulously manicured. Earl's home, in particular, stood out with its elegant facade and imposing gates. The disparity between the man they encountered and his luxurious abode was striking and unexpected. As they observed from a distance, the bikers saw Earl's life unfold in luxury. His home was not just a house, but a statement of opulence. They watched as high-end cars came and went, and people in fine clothes visited. "How does an old man like that live like this?" one biker muttered, his mind racing. Earl's lifestyle was a stark contrast to his humble appearance. Under the shade of a nearby tree, the bikers huddled, speculating. "Maybe he's got a stash of hidden treasure," one joked, half serious. "Or he's been smart with stocks," another suggested. They were intrigued by the source of Earl's apparent wealth. The old man they had mocked was turning out to be a man of substantial means, his secrets guarded behind the walls of his estate. The bikers couldn't shake off their disbelief as they surveyed the scene. Earl's neighborhood was a world away from the gritty streets they were accustomed to. The elegance of the area highlighted the incongruity of Earl's earlier humble presence. "He's playing a part," one biker concluded, his eyes narrowing. The mystery of Earl deepened, his true nature as elusive as ever. Continuing their vigil, the bikers observed Earl's daily life with keen interest. Each glimpse into his world revealed more of his affluent lifestyle. The old man who walked with a cane and simple clothes was a resident of one of the city's most exclusive areas. This revelation only fueled their curiosity more. Who was Earl, and what secrets did his luxurious life conceal? The bikers' gazes turned calculating as they watched Earl's lavish lifestyle. The wealth they had glimpsed ignited a greedy spark within them. They huddled together, whispering, their eyes reflecting a newfound avarice. Earl, previously just an oddity, had now transformed in their eyes into a lucrative opportunity. The potential of a wealthy target living in such opulence was too tempting for them to ignore. In the dim light of their hideout, the bikers' conversation turned to Earl's riches. They envisioned his home filled with valuables, ripe for the taking. "He's an easy score," one biker asserted, his voice laced with greed. The prospect of Earl's wealth became a beacon, drawing them towards the idea of a heist. They saw Earl not just as a target, but as a solution to their financial struggles. The bikers hunched over a crudely drawn map of Earl's neighborhood, plotting with a newfound zeal. They discussed entry points, escape routes, and potential obstacles. The plan was taking shape, fueled by their assumptions of Earl's hidden riches. Each detail was meticulously considered, their conversation a blend of excitement and seriousness. Earl's affluent abode was about to become the center of their audacious scheme. Earl, with his unassuming demeanor and solitary lifestyle, appeared as an ideal target to the bikers. They perceived him as vulnerable, a wealthy old man unprotected in his grand home. Their discussions became more fervent, driven by the belief that Earl was an easy mark. The bikers' plan hinged on the assumption that Earl's defenses would be as frail as they perceived him to be. The final plan was laid out, each biker knowing his role. They were convinced that this robbery would alleviate their financial burdens. Earl's home, with its imagined treasures, was the answer they had been looking for. As they prepared to leave their hideout, a sense of resolve filled the air. The decision was made. They would strike Earl's residence, believing their fortunes were about to change. The moment the bikers stepped into their clubhouse, the air crackled with unforeseen hostility. Without warning, their supposed allies lunged at them, armed and furious. The bikers, caught off guard, scrambled to defend themselves.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
The place that once symbolized camaraderie and safety had abruptly turned into a battleground. Confusion reigned as they tried to comprehend the sudden aggression from their own brothers. Amidst the chaos, the bikers fought back desperately, their minds racing to make sense of the betrayal. Fists and shouts filled the air, a cacophony of rage and disbelief. They managed to fend off their attackers, but the realization of their gang turning against them was a bitter pill to swallow. The clubhouse, once a haven, had become a scene of treachery and violence. With hearts pounding and minds reeling, the bikers made a hasty escape. They mounted their bikes, the roar of engines echoing their tumultuous thoughts. As they sped away, confusion engulfed them. Why would their own gang attack them so viciously? The night air whipped around them as they navigated the dark streets, each turn taking them further from answers and deeper into bewilderment. Once at a safe distance, the bikers regrouped under the dim streetlights. The realization that their gang had fractured hit them hard. Trust, once the foundation of their brotherhood, had been shattered. The betrayal by their own was a wound deeper than any physical injury. They pondered over what could have caused such a rift, their solidarity now fragmented by unexpected hostility. Still reeling from the shock, the bikers grappled with the reality of their situation. The betrayal was not only unexpected, but unexplained. They questioned what they could have done to incur such wrath. The lack of answers hung heavy in the air, adding to their sense of isolation. The night offered no solace, only a backdrop to their confusion and the daunting uncertainty of what lay ahead. In the dim light of an abandoned warehouse, the bikers huddled around a crumpled poster. It was a bounty notice with their faces printed on it, issued by their own gang leader. The numbers under their images were chillingly high. Disbelief and anger coursed through them. The very person they once followed had now put a price on. Their heads turning them into targets for anyone greedy enough to claim it. The realization that they were now hunted by their own was a bitter shock. The bikers sat in stunned silence, grappling with the fact that their leader had turned against them. Feelings of betrayal cut deep, making them question their past loyalties and actions. The bonds they thought unbreakable were now severed, leaving them isolated and vulnerable in a world they once ruled with solidarity. Determined to understand why their fate had taken such a drastic turn, the bikers reached out to their few remaining connections. They moved through the city's underbelly, seeking whispers and clues. Each conversation was tense, filled with the fear of being discovered. They pieced together fragments of information, hoping to find an explanation for the betrayal and the bounty that now hung over their heads. Their search for answers led them to a grimy, neon-lit bar. A former ally, eyes darting nervously, divulged the truth. Their recent actions, especially the interest in Earl, had crossed a line with their leader. The bikers' pursuit of Earl, once just a scheme for financial gain, had unknowingly interfered with bigger, more dangerous plans of their leader. The revelation hit them like a thunderbolt. The world they knew had crumbled. The gang they called family was no more. The bikers, now outcasts and fugitives, faced a grim reality. Their options were limited, their paths fraught with danger. The plan to rob Earl, once a mere greedy venture, now seemed like the only lifeline left to them. Desperation set in as they realized that robbing Earl was their only chance at survival. In the dim light of an abandoned garage, the bikers convened, their faces etched with desperation. The reality of their situation had sunk in. They were cornered with no way out. Robbing Earl was no longer just a lucrative opportunity. It had become a necessity for survival. They huddled together, each man wrestling with the gravity of their decision, yet knowing it was their only hope. As they looked into each other's eyes, a silent understanding passed between them. There was no turning back now. Robbing Earl, a man they had once viewed merely as a target for financial gain, had become their lifeline. Each biker grappled with the weight of their choice, knowing it meant severing the last ties to their past lives. Their path was set. Survival depended on their actions now. Aware of the risks, the bikers solidified their resolve. Earl's home, once just a symbol of untapped wealth, now represented their final stand against their dire circumstances. They discussed the plan with a sense of urgency, fully aware of the dangers involved, but desperation had sharpened their focus. The heist was a gamble they were willing to take. Their decision was irrevocable, their course set. The plan for the robbery took on a new significance. It was more than just a heist. It was their last shot at a secure future. The bikers pored over every detail, understanding that there was no room for error. Earl's house, with its unknown treasures, symbolized their final hope in a world that had turned its back on them. Their fate rested on this one risky endeavor. In the seclusion of their hideout, the bikers meticulously planned the heist. They mapped out Earl's residence, strategizing entry and exit points, discussing potential security measures, and assigning roles. Every detail was scrutinized, every contingency considered. Earl, unknowingly, had become their salvation. The bikers' determination was palpable. They were ready to take the biggest risk of their lives. Under the cloak of darkness, the bikers approached Earl's house, their hearts pounding with a mix of adrenaline and apprehension. They moved with practiced stealth, executing the plan they had rehearsed countless times. As they breached the perimeter, the quiet of the night enveloped them, each step forward intensifying the reality of their daring venture. The heist they had meticulously planned was now in motion. As they slipped through Earl's unguarded entrance, a sense of unease crept over the bikers. The ease with which they had infiltrated the house was unsettling. They had prepared for alarms, locks, even guards, but were met with eerie silence instead. The absence of expected obstacles was disconcerting, yet they pressed on, driven by their desperate need, each step taken with heightened vigilance. Inside, the bikers swiftly began to collect valuables. The house, richly furnished, seemed a treasure trove. Yet, as they moved from room to room, an undercurrent of anxiety accompanied their actions. The lack of security measures, the unspoken expectation of resistance that never came, it all felt too easy, too unguarded. Despite the bounty around them, a sense of foreboding lingered. With each passing minute, the bikers grew more astonished by the lack of resistance. They had braced for a confrontation, a challenge, but found none. The house yielded its riches with no protest, no alarm sounding, no doors locked. The ease of their progress was unnerving. Had their luck simply turned, or was this smooth operation a harbinger of something unexpected? As the bikers loaded their haul, a sense of unease began to overshadow their initial triumph. The smooth progression of the robbery, devoid of any complications, felt increasingly suspicious. They exchanged wary glances, their minds racing with doubt. Was this apparent ease a stroke of luck, or were they walking into a trap they had not anticipated? The silence of the house was now a looming question. As the bikers moved through the dimly lit corridors, laden with their loot, Earl suddenly emerged from the shadows. His presence was startling, but more so was his demeanor, a calm, almost pleased expression on his face. The bikers froze, their hearts pounding. Earl's unexpected appearance, devoid of any fear or surprise, sent a ripple of unease through them. The situation was rapidly veering off course. Earl stood before them, not as a frightened victim, but with an unsettling calmness. His smile, neither warm nor welcoming, seemed to hold a hidden meaning. The bikers, caught off guard, struggled to process his reaction. There was no fear in his eyes, no panic in his stance. This was not the behavior of a man caught in a robbery. It was the poise of someone in control. Before the bikers could react, figures emerged from the surrounding darkness, members of their own gang. The realization hit them like a thunderclap. They had walked into a trap. Betrayal and confusion clouded their minds as they were quickly overpowered. Earl's pleased expression now made a chilling sense. This was a setup, and they had fallen into it head first. Surrounded and outnumbered, the bikers were swiftly captured by their former comrades. The familiar faces of their gang members, now cold and accusatory, surrounded them. The betrayal stung deeply as they were disarmed and restrained. Inside Earl's house, the place they had thought an easy target, they found themselves trapped, their plan unraveled and their fate uncertain. In the tense silence that followed their capture, the truth was laid bare. Earl, alongside the gang leader, revealed the orchestration of the night's events. The heist, the unguarded house, Earl's strange composure. It had all been a ruse, a meticulously planned trap. The bikers listened in stunned disbelief as the depths of the deception were revealed, their own actions leading them to this unexpected downfall. Bound and subdued, the bikers were escorted back to the clubhouse, a place that once signified brotherhood, but now felt like a den of betrayal. The journey was a blur of bitter reflections. As they entered, the familiar surroundings took on a menacing air. They were about to face the consequences of their actions, their fate in the hands of those they once called brothers. Inside the clubhouse, the harsh reality of their situation settled in. The bikers, once proud and defiant, now sat defeated and betrayed. The gang's betrayal was a sharp sting, a reminder of how quickly fortunes can turn in their world. Each man was lost in his thoughts, contemplating the precariousness of their position and the uncertainty of what lay ahead in the aftermath of their failed heist. In the tense atmosphere of the clubhouse, Earl's true identity was revealed. He was not just a wealthy old man, but a key player in the criminal sector, a middleman with extensive connections, including a close friendship with the gang leader. This revelation shed new light on the events of the night, painting Earl as a figure of significant influence and power in the criminal underworld. The gang leader began to explain. Earl's reluctance to involve the police and his wealth were part of a broader network of criminal activities. He had deliberately maintained a low profile, his wealth a byproduct of his dealings. Earl's involvement with the gang was deep-rooted, his apparent vulnerability a facade protecting a much more complex and dangerous reality. The bikers listened in stunned silence as they began to grasp the full extent of Earl's role in the criminal underworld. His connection to their gang leader, his wealth, his calculated response to their robbery attempt, it all pointed to a well-entrenched position in a network of criminal activities. They had unknowingly entangled themselves in a web far more intricate and perilous than they had ever imagined. As the reality of the situation sank in, the bikers understood the gravity of their error. They had targeted Earl, a key figure in the criminal world, vastly underestimating his influence and connections. Their plan, once thought of as a simple heist, was now revealed as a grave miscalculation. They had unwittingly provoked powerful forces, turning what they believed was an easy target into their worst nightmare. In the grim confines of the clubhouse, the bikers were left to confront the dire consequences of their actions. The gang leader, once their ally, now looked upon them with cold disdain. They faced retribution from within their own ranks, a punishment for their betrayal and folly. The air was thick with tension and remorse, as they braced themselves for the inevitable repercussions. Bound and helpless, the bikers faced an uncertain future. The brotherhood they once proudly belonged to had turned against them, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. The paths they had once walked with confidence were now closed, their choices leading them to a precarious precipice. As they contemplated their fate, The weight of their predicament hung heavily upon them, casting a shadow over what lay ahead. In the aftermath of the betrayal, the bikers reflected on the events that led them to this point. Trust, once the cornerstone of their existence, was shattered. They had fallen victim to the very treachery they once thrived on. The realization of their plight was sobering, leaving them to ponder the twisted turn of events that brought them to this desperate and vulnerable state. The story concludes with the bikers facing a future fraught with danger and uncertainty. The decisions they had made, driven by greed and desperation, had led them down a perilous path. Now, caught in a web of betrayal and criminal intrigue, they stood at a crossroads, their fate hanging in the balance. The road ahead was dark and uncertain, the outcome of their choices a mystery yet to unfold.